The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said.
Hello everyone, this is No One of Consequence, back again with another video. This is the 13th episode in the series which recounts my ongoing Dungeons & Dragons campaign, which is now in its 9th year. If you liked the video, please consider hitting the like button, and if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing as well. So as always, spoiler alert, I will be revealing details found in this adventure module. So where we left off last time, you'll recall the characters had found the elemental temple of fire and had engaged with some of the forces there, but things did not go very well for them, and it resulted in them making a last-ditch escape with a Halloween pumpkin carriage to get back to the town before they were all killed or captured. So just a reminder, this is the current makeup of the player characters. They spent the night at the inn and next morning got back up and went back to the temple to have another crack at the elemental fire. So what they did this time, rather than go back the way that they came the previous day, they went to the first level, and they had previously found a ramp going down to the second level, which they had not explored. So this time they decided to take that way back to the second level, and their goal was to hopefully try to find a different way into the fire temple that might help them gain the element of surprise on those people. So they went down the ramp and came to a T-intersection, and directly in front of them was this huge bronze, they assumed it was some kind of door. It was shaped with all these evil, leering faces, but there was no apparent way, at least from this side, to open that door. So what they decided to do was go east from here, since they knew from their mapping that the fire temple should be somewhere in that direction. So they just a short distance away from the bronze door, you can still see it in the screenshot, they came to a circular room, and in the middle of the room was a huge iron chain that was set into the floor, and there was a shackle at the end of it, a large shackle, but it was unlocked. And scattered about the room were a lot of bones of all sorts of different humanoid animals, different kinds, and they all had giant teeth marks on them. So that was disheartening or disconcerting. But there was a passageway to the south end of this room, and so they followed it, and it quickly led them. There was a side room that they found, which was filled with all kinds of broken crates and barrels, and there was all kinds of crap scattered all over the floor. There was also dung mixed in. The whole place stank, but there was nothing here, at least not now. There was also a door on the west wall, but they decided not to explore in that direction for the time being, and instead continue on. And they took a long corridor that wended its way around the southeast area of the second level, which by now they knew was where the fire temple was. And if you have this module and look at the map, you can see how it circles around the outer edge of the fire temple. And it led them into the room where they had just been the day before, where they were fighting the bugbears and so forth. However, at this point, the room is empty. So they went south, and there was a door there. They opened it, and there was a small bed chamber, but there was nothing there. Nothing there of any interest, except there was a door at the opposite end. So they opened that door, and it led to a very richly decorated room. However, it looked like it had been recently cleared out and abandoned. However, the there were curtains decorating the walls, and they all were colors of bright red and yellow, which, of course, is the colors for elemental fire. But again, they didn't find anyone. So there's another door to the south, which they open, and here they finally encountered some remaining denizens of the fire temple. There's a werewolf, which they had not seen before. But there was also that same fighter that had chased off Obrak the day before. Well, chased off all of them, but was fighting Obrak up until the very last. He was there again, and they also saw the same half-orc priest from the day before. And you may remember this was the priest who had cast the hold person right up front during the fight yesterday, and it paralyzed some of them and took them out of the fight. So Obrak, not wanting to risk another hold person spell, ignored the opponents that were closest to him, and instead he threw a Halloween item. This game session took place in the fall. It was not long after Halloween, so they had some new Halloween items. And what this was, it was like a pumpkin seed that when you throw it, it turns into a flaming jack-o'-lantern. And when it gets to the target, it explodes in a small fireball. And so Obrak had one, and he threw that at that half-orc priest. Because, again, they didn't want to risk getting hit with another hold person spell. So that thing exploded, and it actually killed the half-orc priest, took him out. And meanwhile, the same round, Varys had started casting a charm person spell at that temple fighter guy, and he failed a saving throw. So now that guy's charmed and thinks Varys is a trusted friend and ally. So Varys immediately told him, hey, stand down. These are my friends. But of course, a werewolf who was standing next to him was not charmed and was continuing fighting. But it allowed the characters to focus on him. And with everybody attacking that werewolf, it did not take long for it to go down. So the charmed fighter, who revealed his name was Wolfram, started talking to Varys, and Varys started explaining to him how they were friends, and there was a big misunderstanding, and this guy should help them, and these other guys were Varys' friends, and he should trust them as friends as well. And meanwhile, Obrak and Aramis advanced into the room. The mercenary guy, Farman, wasn't real happy. The Sergeant Major was always suspicious, but the mercenary guy, Farman, said that this was the same guy who had thrown him in the prison cell for a sacrifice to elemental fire, so he was not happy that this guy was suddenly now their ally. But he really didn't have any choice but just to accept it. So about this time, some more elemental fire forces burst into this room. There was another werewolf, along with another fire temple priest who came in from behind a curtain in the northwest corner of the room. And then there was another door concealed behind the throne in the center south of the room, and a really large troll came in from that direction. And the troll immediately started attacking Obrak and put some damage on him. Garrett ran over and started trying to attack the fire temple priest, but he cast a hold person into the room, and he targeted the four characters in the room: Garrett, the sergeant major, Aramis, and Obrak, but only Garrett failed his saving throw. So right there in front of the fire temple priest, Garrett was suddenly paralyzed. And then meanwhile, Aramis, the sergeant major, and the now charmed fire elemental fighter Wolfram started attacking the werewolf. So in this screenshot, Aramis threw, he had one of those flaming jack-o'-lantern pumpkin seeds as well from the recent Halloween event. So he threw his at that fire temple priest and managed to kill him. And meanwhile, the sergeant major and the fire temple fighter killed the werewolf. But Obrak is having a hard time against that troll. It's not on here, but he rolled a fumble and dropped his weapon, and the troll, of course, gets multiple attacks, and you can see how low that Obrak's hit points have gotten already at this point. So that flaming pumpkin jack-o'-lantern thing that Aramis had thrown, it exploded, and there was all these curtains and plush furnishings in this room, which caught on fire, and now the fire was starting to spread throughout the room more. And the mercenary fireman ran over and grabbed Garrett and pulled him back before he might accidentally get caught up in the fire. And then Wolfram and Aramis started attacking the troll to take some pressure off of Obrak, the sergeant major, as well. And Obrak let them have it and stepped back because he was afraid of being killed at this point by that thing. So the battle continued on, and the troll started taking some damage of his own. So he broke combat and fled back through that door behind the curtain to the south where he came in from. And the charmed Fire Temple Fire Wolfram told the characters what was beyond that door. And he said there was the troll, of course, who just went back that way, but he said the troll also controlled a large multi-headed monster, which he called a hydra. And he knew the hydra was in there as well. And he also said that the head priest for the fire temple was waiting in there. He said the room to the south was the actual main worship hall of elemental fire, and that those last remaining forces would be found in that room. So the characters decided to break out they still had some of this Christmas eggnog from the previous year that they had not yet used. And as I said, this adventure took place in late fall. Christmas was coming, and they knew that any Christmas stuff that they still had from last year would expire. So they figured they might as well go ahead and use it up. So they gave a bunch of that to Obrak to get him healed back up, and decided to just continue on to the south and try to keep up the pressure. So they went into that area, and you can see where they came through in the upper right-hand corner, and you can see the great hall of worship of elemental fire. And just like the fighter Wolfram said, there's the troll, the Hydra, and then in the back corner to the left, you can see the head priest of elemental fire. So, Obrak and Thorol charged into the room. Thorol was circling around to the south. He was trying to stay away from the Hydra and also try to get line of sight on that fire elemental priest. And you can see some die rolls there. So another Christmas item that would be expiring soon that Varys was carrying, it's called a Scroll of Silent Night. And you can read the description there in the screenshot. It's basically a combined darkness and silence, 15-foot radius. So he decided to use that, and he targeted that head fire elemental priest to try to neutralize him. Figuring, if he was both silenced and in pitch black darkness, then he would not be able to do anything. And you can see that area of effect, that shaded area of effect around that guy. Yeah, it's translucent. It's semi-transparent here because that's just the way the graphics work. But in the game terms, it would be a solid, circle of darkness surrounding him. Then in this screenshot, the fire elemental priest, realizing now that he was in serious trouble, he just started groping his way back to the west along this corridor, which of course he knew was there. And he was just trying to get away from this whole battle until hopefully this silence and darkness would wear off. So he started feeling his way along the wall to head back out to the west. And then meanwhile, the other characters started fighting the troll and the Hydra. But Thorol didn't want to let that guy get away, so he started following the globe of darkness to try to keep track of where that guy went. So in this screenshot, you can see the fire elemental priest has moved further west along the corridor. Thorol's at the entranceway. And you can see some of the damage rolls there going on with the other characters and the monsters. So Thorol chased this fire elemental priest down this corridor, and there was something magic about this hallway. It was filled with like these swirling sparks and embers of fire. And the further into the corridor he went, he started taking burning damage. And it didn't kill him, but it did take some hit points off. And he had to heal some back. And I don't remember how he did it. He must have had a potion or something. But to the south, he could see that globe of darkness, and so he decided he had one spell left at this point, a web spell, so he decided to just blindly cast it into the darkness. He was trying to web that priest and keep him from getting away any further. And again, the area is transparent here, but it would be pitch black from Thorol's point of view. And you can see that the web spell just missed the fire elemental priest. I can't remember. I'm sure I had him make a roll and adjusted for randomness or whatever. So in this screenshot, the other characters had finally defeated the troll and the Hydra. And they immediately set that troll on fire, so they didn't want it to regenerate and come back, because they had run into that problem before with just leaving dead trolls laying around and finding out what happens if you don't do anything with the body. So there on the west side, Obrak and the sergeant major had gotten to that corridor, and they could see all the swirling embers and sparks swirling around. And they were reluctant to go in there because they could see on the far end what had happened to Thorol. However, Obrak decided to heck with it. He went in, he went charging through, and you can see he took some damage from the burning. So the sergeant major decided to go as well, and he didn't do as well as Obrak did in trying to save versus damage. And by the time he got through to the other side, he had actually dropped to -1 hit points. So he literally staggered out of that hallway and then just collapsed to the floor at the feet of Obrak there, with his clothes smoldering and smoking and embers wafting up from his body. So back inside the main hall, Wolfram, who's charmed, didn't want Varys going down that hallway because he didn't want to see Varys take damage like the others did. And so Varys decided to turn around and go back the way the characters came in here and try to circle back around and link up with the other characters from that direction. It would take a while to travel that distance, but it didn't know what else to do. So Varys, Wolfram, and the mercenary fireman all turned around and started circling back around that way. So on this screenshot, the darkness had cleared away. The Fire Temple priest was no longer there. And the characters, first they used, probably the very last of the eggnog that they still had to heal the sergeant major and get him back on his feet. But they saw Thorol's web spell. And what had happened was Thorol's web, he had missed the fire elemental priest, but his web covered over this winch mechanism, and it clearly was used to operate that huge bronze door that the characters had encountered when they first came down here. And the elemental priest had been operating it to raise that bronze door and escape, and he had gotten it raised a few feet before Thorol cast his web spell, and the web spell jammed the winching mechanism, but there was still enough space that had been cleared so that it was clear that the fire elemental priest had managed to crawl under the bronze door and escape. So the characters, Obrak and Thorol, I think the sergeant major was still drinking the eggnog at this point because he could only take one dose a turn. So Obrak and Thorol started following where they think the fire elemental priest went. They themselves crawled under that bronze door. And like I said earlier, they found themselves in the exact same spot where they had started when they first came down here earlier. And they concluded that the fire elemental priest had probably gone east, which, of course, they knew circles around back into the fire temple complex. And they figured that's probably the most logical way he would have gone. So that's the direction they went. And then meanwhile, Varys and Farman and Wolfram are coming back down that same corridor from the other direction, hoping to catch up with Thorol and Obrak and the sergeant major. And so essentially what happened was the two groups met roughly in the middle, and sure enough, they found the fire elemental priest caught between them. So fighting ensued, and the fire elemental priest decided to focus his attacks on Varys, because he figured if he could kill Varys, then that would break the charm that Wolfram was under, and then he would rejoin him and start fighting the characters again. And the Fire Elemental Priest had really good armor class, so he was hoping he could avoid attacks from the others and try to kill Varys and get Wolfram back on his side. But unfortunately, the die rolls that I was making for the Fire Priest didn't go very well. And then meanwhile, you can see here that Varys scored a critical hit on that guy, which did not help him. And then Varys, again, they were trying to use up Christmas items. He deployed one of those snowmen that he was still carrying around from the previous year. And, the snowman, it just stands there, but it absorbs some damage that the owner would otherwise take. So Varys used that. Meanwhile, Obrak and Thorol had caught up as well. So now everybody's wailing on the Fire Temple Priest. And despite his good armor class, there really wasn't much he could do, and he ended up going down. So the characters went back into the main hall, the main worship hall of Elemental Fire, and by now they're like out of spells. A lot of them are hurt. So they decided not to really explore this room or mess with anything. However, they did find some chests down at the south end of the room next to the altar. And they, of course, they couldn't leave that behind, even if they didn't do anything else in here. So they decided to take those back to town. So they hauled that stuff out and got back to the horses and went back to Hamlet. And I don't have screenshots here, but of course, on getting back to town, the question was what to do with that fire elemental fighter who was charmed to Varys. And they felt that he was too dangerous to keep around, because they didn't know if at some point he might get another saving throw and break the charm. So I don't have any screenshots. I don't remember the exact details, but essentially what they did when they got back to town, they stopped at the tower where Rufus and Byrne live, and I don't remember the details, but they essentially conned the fire elemental fighter in going with them, and of course they promptly locked him up in some cells that they have in their tower, and they promised the characters that they would see to his fate from there. So once they got rid of him, the characters went back to the inn. They got one of the side rooms and set those chests out on the table, and Garrett decided he would check each of the chests for traps, and they had some bad experiences with that before. So the other characters stuck around, but Thorol and Aramis decided to shut the door and wait outside and let Garrett do his thing before going back in. So Garrett, he told everybody, at least as far as he could tell, their chests were not trapped, and so everybody gathered back in to see what loot they got from the Elemental Fire Temple. Alright, so that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching, and again, if you haven't yet, please hit the like button and consider subscribing and share the video, leave comments, it's all good, and I appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye for now.
The greatest adventure is what lies